Hey, what's going on YouTube? Lionel here, and I have a another fragrance review for you guys. This one comes from the house of Jill Sander, and it is called A Filling Man. Can you see that? I think that light's too bright. So anyway, I decanted this in one of these Sally atomizers, a couple of them actually. Um, let's talk about the fragrance real quick. Now, I'm going to give you the note breakdown from Fragrantica, so bear with me. Um, In the top, you have green notes, fruity notes, lavender, lavender, tarragon. You have anise, and also on the top you have bergamot. And then in the heart you have cyclamen, you have raspberry, you have balsam fir, you have orris root or iris, I think. You have jasmine, and you have geranium. And in the base notes, you have quite a woody base, sandalwood. You have some tonka, some amber, some patchouli, musk, tobacco, cedar, and oak moss. So those are the notes. Um, Now this fragrance was created quite a low, it's about 23 years old, back in 1989. It is considered an Oriental spicy. So let's talk about this fragrance. Uh, it is definitely I, I don't know if it's an acquired thing. Here's what it is. Um, the opening opens with this um, blast of fruitiness. I mean, I'm talking about like fruit bowl fruity. There's no real distinction of the note and the fruitiness and the on the opening blast. That's accompanied by some bergamot, and then um, there's this very sharp lavender, and it's sort of green, right? So that's what you have in the top. That's what you have on the initial spray. You're getting this blast of fruitiness, and then right in the top, I'm talking about 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. It starts to open a little more, and it's green, and it's lavender, and it's sharp, and it's fruity, and it's a little citrus. Um, and there's this just a small hint of anise in there. I mean, I'm talking about very small, but you will pull it out because it's just adding this depth to the top, right? So if you think about the top, it is extremely it starts off very rich, right? Not rich as in sweet, as in caramel or chocolate, but rich as in just the components of the top note. You know you're getting hit with a lot of stuff in the top, and it's really lavender fruitiness with just this tinge of greenness and spiciness, right? That's what you get. So immediately you can sense the geranium coming in because it starts to have that sort of geranium medicinal sharp floral feel to it, right? And it starts to get you start to see it transition into sort of a fruity, spicy fragrance, right? The greenness is still there, but what you have accompanied is it gets a little sweeter, right? There's some raspberry in the middle, and it starts to get a little sweeter, but the geranium and the jasmine is really driving the fragrance in the heart. So as you're smelling it, what you're smelling is just this fruity sweet, this fruity spicy unique fragrance. I mean, and it's deep and it's complex and there's a lot going on, but there's a lot going on, you know, uh, harmoniously, right? There's sort of a harmony, there's sort of a symphony, right, where you can, if you listen very well, you can hear the cello, in the background, right, or you can hear the violin, in the background, on top of all of these trombones and trumpets and bass drums and those other dominant instruments, right? So in here, you can sense a subtle softness within this very loud sort of composition going on, right? So you I just sprayed it on again. I absolutely love this fragrance, but I'll get to that in a minute. So what you now have is fruity, a lavender fruity, slightly green, sort of spicy fragrance, right? And that's what you're now playing with, right? And you won't, it's not, you really can't distinguish, like, unless you look. If you looked at the notes, outside of that, you would definitely pull out the geranium. You would definitely pull out the lavender. If you've been around those types of notes, you would definitely pull out it sort of has a taste of heaven. If you've ever smelled taste of heaven, it sort of has that background, that what's going on in the top of taste of heaven is sort of what's going on here. Now there's no vanilla in this, but my gosh, it is the sweetest non-vanilla top mid that you will ever come across. I think. I mean, it's sweet. I mean, it definitely smells like there's vanilla there, and that could be because in the base there's this tonka and amber, and that tonka and amber could easily be in the middle notes, right? The lavender could add some barbershop sweetness to it, and the fruitiness is definitely adding some sweetness to it. But it has a vanilla undertone to it. So I'm really thinking that's maybe the tonka and the amber sort of playing around with the other notes and sort of giving it this vanilla glaze type of fragrance, right? I mean, this vanilla glaze amongst this fruity, sharp, green geranium fragrance, right? So then, as it starts to dry down, this tobacco comes on, right? It is weird because what you have at first is this fruity, sharp, you know, you know, fruity, sharp lavender fragrance, right? That's what you have. And somewhere, this tobacco just, I mean, it just sort of like crashes the party. I mean, it's like, man, it doesn't come in subtle. It doesn't like creep in as it starts. No, when the tobacco, like you never sense the tobacco, then all of a sudden the tobacco just jumps in, and this fragrance starts to be dominated by the tonka and the tobacco. And what you have is this tonka tobacco scent with this, and then this patchouli comes along, right? And 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 it's such a unique fragrance because you can, again, there's not a lot of fragrances that you can feel the transition. This one you feel a transition. It's sort of like bam, it's like three. Like this fragrance really has three phases. It's like fruity, citrus green opening, sharp geranium, lavender fruitiness, and then bam, this sweet tobacco fragrance with fruitiness, lavender, and geranium in the background. Like they literally, if I look at a lot of times you look at a pyramid, it just really doesn't make sense. On this one, it does. On this one, but when the tobacco comes. I mean, and it's a sweet tobacco, right? It's not a it's a pure Havana tobacco, right? It's not a ashy, dirty tobacco. It is it's a sweet, refined, you know piped tobacco, like what you get in tobacco vanille, what you get in pure Havana. It's that type of tobacco that's really in the fragrance at that point in time. So, and then this tonka is just really picking up the sweetness, right? And so now there's this fruity sweetness, there's this lavender sweetness, and then this tonka comes in and just gives it a blast of sweetness. At this point in time, it starts to get a little creamy. It starts to get, at first, you're not really getting a creamy type of texture. You're just getting you're getting a sort of fruity, sharp fragrance. Then it starts to get a little creamy, and that's why I'm thinking, that there just seems to be some vanilla in it somewhere, because this vanilla and this sandalwood and this tonka and this, oak moss and patchouli, and it just blends, right? And what you're left with is just this a powerhouse type fragrance which remains modern, right? So you think about it, it was created in '89, along with the Gucci's and the Versace's and the early '90s power fragrances, right? When men was starting to get a little bit into some sweetness, but you know they were still kind of rough around the edges, not the stuff we're wearing today, the tobacco vanillas and the pure blondes, like those fragrances wouldn't have made it back then. But this one has sort of a taste of heaven type of sweetness to it. It's sweet, but it's such in a refined way, right? Um, so, as the fragrance, develops, draws down, does whatever, it gets, it goes, it starts off you don't know where you're right, and then you start to feel a spiciness come in. So you start to feel you're in the '90s, you're in the early '90s, you're wearing the Gucci's and the Versace's and those things, and then it starts to jazz up a bit and becomes a little more classy and a lot, well, it's classy in the opening, but it just starts to get a little sweeter and a little more modern with the tonka and the tobacco, which are really common notes, and the patchouli, which are really common notes today, and much of the masculine releases that we enjoy, or that at least I enjoy. So, um, you know, it, as it draws down, that's what you're left with, and you're left with just this beautiful fragrance, right? Um, Let me talk about how it performs. Um, you get an all day fragrance. When you spray this on, forget wearing anything else unless you're going to shower and shower good, because this fragrance is going to give you all day. I mean, it lasts forever. I never stop smelling it. The projection is very nice. It's nice. It goes out, but it doesn't go too far, right? Somebody close is going to feel you. Someone a couple of feet away from you is going to feel you for the first 6 to 8 hours at least, but it never becomes overpowering. Never feels like it takes over someone else's space, right? And that's what I really enjoy about this one. It projects, uh, but it doesn't crowd. Um, so that's the projection and longevity. Let me talk about compliments. Uh, no one really said anything. I think I got one unsolicited comment. So, oh, you smell nice today. Just kind of one of those. And I went and asked a coworker because, um, I asked her, well, what do you think about it? And she really liked it. She noticed immediately that it was a little bit different than anything else I had worn. So she said, "Oh, I like that one though. That's sort of mature," is what she said. So I would argue that it is a mature fragrance. Definitely not child's play. Definitely not L'Homme or La Nuit or those fragrances. I think this one has a bit more of a an older edge to it, yet it still remains modern. Yet I wouldn't see high school dudes wearing this one. I wouldn't see young college guys wearing this one. If you're 25 plus, um, I think this one works for you. I think you can. I think this will be perfect for you. I see it as something you want on a first date. I can see it as something in the office, but you got to go a little easier on the sprays. As it relates to heat, I don't see it really being worn outside in the heat. Now, I work in the office, so I can pretty much pull out anything, and I think this fragrance is okay. It doesn't seem out of season if you wore it in the summer, so it's quite versatile. Unlike, if I wore a Shergy, if I tried to wear Shergy or New Harlem. I mean, and I did wear it, but they still kind of feel just a little out of place. It's like wearing the pink shirt in the winter or wearing the black shirt in the summer. I'm kind of conscious of those things. Um, Overall, I give this fragrance very high marks. I don't know if I would give it a five, um, but I would definitely give it a high four. I'll give it anywhere between a four and a five. If you're looking for something sort of classic, little modern, sort of sweet, fruity, yet spicy, mature, yet playful enough to pull off, right? I'm 34, so I can pull this off just about in any occasion. I don't really see it as casual wear, but I've never really tried it. I've either worn it to work or out to dinner or something like that. So overall, I really enjoy it. I mean, I think it's a fragrance that you should try. Now, it was made in '89, so it is discontinued. To get a 100 ml bottle of this is going to cost you two kids and a kidney. However, there's a boatload of these 7 milliliter, 5 milliliter minis on eBay. I mean, you can find it just about anywhere on eBay. Um, so I really love it. I really like it. I mean, I really love it. I don't just like it. I think it's perfect. It's one of those perfect fragrances for me. Not too classic, right? Not too old, but not so modern that everybody is touching it. So you'll stand out. It's definitely a standout fragrance. High marks, 4.5. Um, Versatile. Um, as it relates to season, sort of mature fragrance. So that's it. Jill Sander Filling Man. You can find it on eBay, Fragrantica, quite easy. And it does get high praise throughout. So I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I went so long, but I really wanted to do this fragrance some justice. Peace.